You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, and this is episode number 100.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited today with our 100th episode. Marchelle, can you believe it?
Oh, this is so cool. I remember when we were just talking about this as an idea.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Like that maybe one day we'd have podcast number 100?
Yeah, just when this was just like, you were just excited about, maybe we should do a podcast.
Oh.
Before we even started doing these podcasts.
Oh, you mean because...
Yeah, it was just an idea.
Because you and I would sit around in my office after all the patients had left, and we'd be chatting, and we'd be like, other people need to hear what we have to say. We should do a podcast.
And now look at us. We're here. We're at episode 100. Can you believe it?
Oh, it's incredible. I just can't believe it. It blows me away. So, yeah, it's wild. Who would have ever thought? So what this means is that we've been at this for nearly 2 years. Because that's, once a week, 50 weeks. 52 weeks. So, and I really want to thank all of our loyal listeners for sticking with us for nearly 100 episodes. Well, 100 now. And I also want to thank those of you who've been taking the time to write reviews on iTunes and all of the other places where you can write podcast reviews. This is the way that other people are going to find the podcast, is by you rating it and reviewing it. And this is the way that podcast platforms know that the content is good, by the ratings, right? So I just want to, read a few more reviews. Remember how we did this a couple of weeks ago? It was so great. So here's a review from Flantel. And Flantel writes, "This is a terrific podcast. During every episode, I either learn something new, have a light bulb moment, or find inspiration, or all three. Dr. Angela and Marchelle," she says, I hope I spelled that right, and she did, "are both warm, engaging, and real. A lot of food, nutrition, diet experts seem a little full of themselves, but not Dr. Angela. She seems to sincerely want to help as many people as she can with her knowledge and expertise." And I think that's a great review. Thank you so much. And it's true.
Thank you. That's so nice.
I do sincerely want to help as many people as possible.
True.
Yeah. So, right on the spot. Let's see. Here is another review from somebody who's a baseball fan. It says 9 in baseball. And he or she says it's a helpful tool. Keeps my mind thinking about maintaining a healthy lifestyle every week, even when I'm busy or I've got things going on. Helps me from drifting away towards extended periods of poor food choices. So there you go. And I think now we're back to me, not the review anymore. But I think that's a really good way to use this podcast, is because, over the years now, I can say that over the years, we have we have talked about a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects to what it takes to lose weight and keep it off. And, sometimes we just need a little extra kick. And so it's a great place to go to just keep this top of mind. It's like, think about it like this. You've got the food industry top of mind all the time, trying to get you to eat their crap. What you need is Dr. Angela and Marchelle top of mind all the time to counteract the food industry. How's that?
Right. That is true.
It's so true. Okay. So I was thinking about what to do to celebrate this milestone, and I thought, what do people usually do to celebrate a milestone like this? They do a top 10 list. So
yay.
The top 10 of what I believe are the most powerful weight loss tips, not just for losing weight, but for keeping it off. And so most of these are topics that we've covered in depth in at least one podcast. But I just kind of wanted to give a summary in honor of this important anniversary for us. Okay? Sound good, Marchelle?
All right. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down from number 10 to number 1 in terms of the order in which I feel these tips are most important. Okay? So here we go. Weight loss tip number 10. Do not worry about what anyone else thinks about what you're eating or not eating. How's that one?
Oh, that's a good one.
This is a huge one. Most of us have a lot of thoughts running through our minds about what other people think. If we stop eating foods that we discover are toxic for us, or they worry about what other people they'll think that we're being too restrictive, or they worry that people are going to think they've lost too much too fast and maybe they're sick and have cancer, or, they just worry that other people will be offended if we don't eat what they've offered us. And I'll admit, sometimes it can be a little tricky, especially if you're a guest in someone's home and you don't want to make a fuss about food. And so I get it. And I believe it's possible to navigate this clearly. All you have to do is explain that you've decided to focus on being a healthy person. Like, how simple is that? And you've made some changes in the way you eat. So simple. And depending on who they are, you can ask them to purchase some things for you. Like, let's say if you're going out of town and you're staying at somebody's house, if it's like a family member, you can ask them to purchase some things for you, or you can ask them to take you to the store so that you can get your own food. And you can even offer to cook. And you being a healthy person is really, really important. So make sure that your needs are known and recognized. Okay? How's that sound?
Yes. And so for me, like at first, it was kind of hard. It is hard at first. When you're not, when you're not used to what to say. But if you don't look at it like you're being restrictive, if you look at it like you're being disciplined, which gives you a feeling of control, the more that you do it, the easier it gets.
Yep.
And I promise it gets easier. And then you feel in control, and then you just feel better about doing it. And then it just becomes second nature. So it gets easier.
Yeah. Do you remember what Dr. Ashley Gearhart was talking about last week or the week before about the virtuous cycle, and how doing something once and then you get a positive benefit from it, and then you can do it again, and you can remind your brain this isn't so hard. Like, you can set yourself up with a virtuous cycle about helping other people understand what being a healthy person means in terms of food. You can do that.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's tip number 10. You ready for tip number 9? Here we go.
Tip number 9.
Never use your bathroom scale to assess your progress.
Oh my gosh, Kay. Oh, this is a hard one for me. All right.
I talk about this a lot, about how completely inaccurate a weight measurement is in determining whether you've lost fat or not. So be sure.
It's so true.
I know.
It's so true.
Be sure to make the effort to get body composition testing done so that you know that you're nourishing your body correctly and you're not losing your precious lean muscle mass. The people who did the Belly Busters challenge, I did a bonus section in the Belly Busters challenge. It was the week between Christmas and New Year's. And all of those people are just now fanatics about getting body composition testing done. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea.
And there's a lot easier access to them now because you can get them on Amazon. You can get them at the gym. You have a lot easier access to them. So
to getting body composition testing.
Yes, to get body composition testing. So if you have a way to do it, do it.
Do it. Yes. Okay. Tip number 8, keep your eyes on your own plate. How about this one?
Yeah.
Don't worry about what anybody else is eating or not eating. Trust that when they see you healthy and vibrant, and when they're ready, they will ask you what you're doing. And so you don't want to be preaching to people who, there's always, this old saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Right.
And so that's how you want to be about your healthy eating behaviors. Like, when people are ready, they're going to notice and they're going to come to you and they're going to say, what are you doing? That's when you want to answer that question, but not before. Okay. So don't ever answer a question that someone isn't asking. That means they're not ready to hear the answer. And that is key advice for all kinds of things, not just for weight loss. So, okay. Right. And the other thing is that once they are ready, they can't get enough. So be prepared for that too. They're going to be calling you every day and they're going to be asking you all kinds of things. And they just can't get enough information once they're set to go. So, all right. Yes. And so, and the other thing is that if the people around you, the other thing that I really wanted to mention when I say keep your eyes on your own plate, you're going to have family members who are still eating junk food. you're going to have people that you love and care about that are eating junk food. Don't worry about it. Keep your eyes on your own plate and only worry about what's going in your mouth, okay? Let them live their own lives. You have no control over what they eat anyway. So unless they're a young child that you happen to be feeding, okay? So keep your eyes on your own plate. That's tip number 8. Tip number 7, focus on nourishing your beautiful physical body. So this is a really good tip. So many of us have been dieting for so long and restricting ourselves and fighting with our brains. And most of us have absolutely no idea how to actually nourish our bodies. We only know how to count calories or count points. And we are restricting and we're only eating certain things. And yeah, you can lose weight eating and drinking protein supplements all day, to be sure. But you will have learned nothing about nourishing your body. So vegetables are super, super important. You need to be eating vegetables. You need to be learning to eat vegetables. You need to be learning to chop vegetables. You need to be learning to cook vegetables. Getting enough protein, getting the healthy fats that you need, super important. Sitting down to eat, having regular meals, using silverware, super important. So you want to take this opportunity 3 times a day to focus on nourishing your body and really enjoy it. You'll be surprised at how much food you need to eat and how much time it takes to eat. I love taking my lunch breaks. Marchelle knows this really well. I nourish myself with a great big chicken salad or a big bowl of vegetables with protein. And eating is meant to be pleasurable, so we should be enjoying it. I have a colleague who compares eating to a hot shower, which I think is great. It's like eating should be like a hot shower, really, really enjoyable. But after a while, enough is enough. And you don't crave hot showers in between your hot showers, right? You're not like going to the shower 5 times a day.
So let's clarify what you mean by pleasurable. So not pleasurable in the sense of a dopamine hit, pleasurable in the way that you're nourishing your body. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
so I don't want anybody to get confused about what that means.
Yes.
Because we can get confused by that. Or at least I can. I could be confused by that.
Yes. So there's the pleasure of a really well-cooked chicken breast and some broccoli with butter and lemon.
Right.
And then there's the over-pleasure of a donut.
Right.
Okay? That's the difference.
There we go. Yes.
That's the difference. A donut is over-pleasure.
Yes.
So we don't want over-pleasure. We just want pleasure. Okay.
And I right now am really learning to fall in love with this philosophy of nourishing my body and learning the difference in the feeling of that. That is really big in my life right now.
Good.
And I'm paying attention to like every bite and what that feels like and the difference of feeling satisfied and not full. Like, when you eat so much, you're full. Like, it's a whole thing. When you're so used to eating for that dopamine hit and to just fill this void and the emotional eating, like, I had to take this step back and now, to eat slower and pay attention and to cook the meal and to take enjoyment. And so it's a whole different ball game, and I'm just falling in love with it. And I'm just really enjoying, eating in a whole different way. So that's big in my life right now. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of pretend you're in France,
it's fun.
They don't fool around with food in France. They really enjoy their food and they sit down and they eat. So.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So you ready that was tip number 7, I think. Yes.
Yes.
Tip number 6.
Yeah.
A pen and a paper are your most important weight loss tools. So we did a whole podcast on this.
We did.
There's a couple of ways to use a pen and paper. The first way is to actually just write down what you're eating so that you know what's going in. So you're planning your meals ahead of time. I always recommend that you plan all your meals ahead of time. But then the other way to use a pen and paper is if you notice that you're wanting to eat for emotional reasons instead of eating, stop and then write down what you're feeling and write down what you're thinking and see if you can.
This is so helpful.
It's really, really helpful because so many of us have no idea what we're feeling and we have no idea what we're thinking. And we're thinking a lot of thoughts that aren't very helpful. And so your pen and paper are your most important weight loss tools. And if you will take the time to use a pen and paper, I'm okay with digital too. I mean, sitting down in front of a computer, just as good. But the idea is to get the thoughts onto a piece of paper, get the plan onto a piece of paper or onto a screen where you can look at it objectively and make decisions about it rather than just have all of this stuff swirling around in your head and you don't even know what's going on. So that is tip number 6. Okay. Do you have any comments about that or questions?
This is definitely something I need to work on more.
There are so many people who say, "Oh, I don't like journaling." I was like, "Well, don't use that word then. Use a different word." I
love it. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea. I just don't take the time to do it.
It does take time.
I think, I need to work on it more. Definitely.
Yeah, it takes focused time. So,
yeah.
Okay. Tip number 5. This is a good one. The journey will be messy. Don't expect perfection.
Yeah. You should say that again.
The journey will be messy. So you got to think about it like you're a baby learning to walk. So babies fall down and they get up and they try over and over and over again for months and months. They're toddling around and they're mostly falling down for months. But each time they get up, they are building muscle strength and they're building a sense of balance and they're developing that strength and balance so that one day they'll walk. Okay. So the same is true for you on your weight loss journey. You're going to fall down a lot. You live in a society that glorifies food and that makes it 10 times harder. That makes it 100 times harder. That makes it 1,000 times harder. It's way harder to eat healthy, normal food when you live in a society that is constantly pushing crap on you. So don't underestimate how hard this is and be willing to fail over and over and over again. Think of the letters fail as F is first attempt in learning, F-A-I-L. Get it? Fail is first attempt in learning. So each time you fail, you'll learn something new as long as you don't beat yourself up about it. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So I was just thinking like some of the patients that I'm just most proud of are some of the people that come in and they are just dragging their asses in and they do not want to come and they feel like they have just screwed up the last month or, just made all the wrong decisions and they just don't want to be there and they decide to come anyway. And I am so proud of them.
I know.
For showing up, just for trying and keep trying. And I just adore them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. You're guaranteed to be successful if you just keep going. So
yeah, just keep trying.
Just keep going. Okay. Tip number 4 is remember that sugar and flour are powerful drugs. We learned this from Dr. Gerhardt. I mean, I've been preaching it for a long time, but she's actually done the research. And we want to respect these drugs, sugar and flour. And after listening to her, I'm like, we should not be giving this stuff to kids. Don't give children sugar and flour. Do not expose their developing brains. You wouldn't give them cigarettes, right? You wouldn't give them alcohol. Give their brains some time to develop. And then when they get older, they can make a choice as to whether or not they want sugar and flour products. But when they're young, don't be giving this stuff to kids. So, yeah, remember she said 12% of children meet the criteria for addiction to sugar and flour products. And I think she said 14% of adults, maybe 15%. It's somewhere right around the neighborhood of the number of people who struggle with alcohol. And remember, she talked about dimensionality in that as well, meaning that there are people like me and probably you who, we don't necessarily meet addiction criteria, but we really struggle with the effects of these powerful drugs in our food. And you just want to really respect it. That's kind of what I do. Like, I don't say, no, I'm never going to have cake again, even though I know cake is hell for me. But I do say, I'm going to respect it. And I'm going to be deliberate about it. I'm not going to just be willy-nilly, just, yeah, sure, I'm at a party, I'll have some cake. I'm going to be very respectful about it. Okay. So.
Yeah, I'm scared shitless of sugar now and I don't eat it.
I know.
I've been off the sugar for a little while now, and I have a very healthy respect for sugar, and I don't.
Yeah.
I steer clear in that right now, and even like, and right now I'm really leery of the substitutes.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I don't dabble in stevia, because I do, but that's pretty much the only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't do the other ones. I just do the stevia, but that still keeps my brain that whatever that trigger, the sweetness trigger on, and I would love to just like dampen that altogether. And I'm working on that. Yeah. But I still like, I still have my love of fruit, and I'm not really sure. I mean, right now I do very, very little fruit, but I still do some dark berries. And, I'm wrestling with that too, but, and I guess you could still consider that sugar in some form or another. But yeah, I have a healthy respect for sugar, because I am addicted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and the same, I mean, just think about it in the same way you think about alcohol or cigarettes. Like,
I do.
You can choose to indulge if you want to, but you have to be mindful that these things are addictive, and most people struggle. And even if you don't necessarily meet the criteria, the DSM-5 criteria, that's the psychiatric or psychological criteria for addiction.
Yeah.
That these can be very problematic. So
I could safely say that I have a very, very, very addictive brain, and of all substances. Like, I have had to quit a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
And by far, sugar was the hardest. By far. I mean, I dream about it. And I have had a really, really hard time, like, completely letting it go. And it digs in. And I mean, I don't know why it does, but it does. It is really hard to let go of, but it is possible. And it feels so good on the other side. I promise it does. And it is worth letting go, because you feel so much better and so much more in control. And, like, screw you, sugar.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think it just occurred to me as you were talking. I think one of the reasons why it's so hard is because we have so many early associations with it. Like, you do not have early associations with cigarettes, except for that guy that I told you about, who, started smoking a corncob pipe with his grandfather when he was 3. He's the only person I ever met that really had that early of an association. Okay. But most of us have early associations with birthday cakes or candy or ice cream or whatever it might be. Yeah. And so that the formative brain pathways are there. And I think that's why it's so much harder. I think that is. So.
Oh, yeah. I found safety and pleasure in sugar, when I was really little. So it's a deeply rooted addiction. So it's in there.
All the more reason not to give your kids this stuff.
Yes.
Okay. I wish I had known that when I was raising my kids, but it's too late for me now. Too. The research wasn't there yet. No. Okay. Tip number 3. The weight loss journey done well is a journey of profound personal evolution. I say that all the time. Be willing to evolve. Okay. So
I love that.
You're not going to solve this problem with a diet. If diets worked, we'd all be skinny. That's all there is to it. So we have to think more deeply. We have to think more broadly. We have to recognize that if we're not going to use food or alcohol to manage our emotions anymore, we have to find a new way. And that takes time and attention and a willingness to get in touch with our emotions and a willingness to find out what we're thinking that's creating our emotions. It takes effort. So, yes, be willing to evolve. That's tip number 3 for the weight loss journey done well. Okay. You ready for tip number 2? Okay. Accepting, feeling, and processing negative emotion is key to prevent cross addiction. So,
oh gosh.
What is cross addiction? Cross addiction is when you just substitute one addiction for another addiction. So if you go, well, I've heard that in AA meetings, they just gave you sugar. Like my friend
yes, I was going to say,
is an alcoholic.
I have done this. Yeah. It happens.
Said, they told her that when her alcohol cravings were really strong, just mix up some brownie batter and eat that instead. Yeah. So they're encouraging a cross addiction. Of course, I don't think the people in AA know that sugar is this powerfully addictive drug too, or they wouldn't be saying that. But you have to be very careful because, if you are adamant about not eating sugar and flour products, but you don't yet know how to manage your emotions, you could turn to alcohol. There are a lot of people who've had gastric surgery who end up really struggling with alcohol. You could end up turning to gambling. You could end up turning to sex. You could end up turning to shopping. Like there's a lot of other ways. And what we call that is buffering. So we use some external something to buffer us from our negative emotions. And so this is why it's so powerful to be willing to actually feel your negative emotions so that you don't end up buffering in some other way. Okay? We've seen this happen a lot where people turn to some other buffer. And this is why it's so important to be in a program like Empowered Weight Loss, where you are learning, how do I even know what I'm feeling? Like, how do I do this? What is this all about? And where you're working at some of the deeper psychological processes that are going on in your brain. There's nothing wrong with you. And that's the other piece of it, is that your primitive brain is always going to say, no, negative emotion means we're going to die. That's not okay. So there's nothing wrong with you if you find yourself wanting to buffer from a negative emotion. It's just that you're going to stay stuck. If it's not stuck with food or alcohol, it's going to be stuck in some other way. So we want to really learn how to feel and identify and feel and process our negative emotions so that we're able to move forward in our life. Okay, so that's what we teach you in Empowered Weight Loss. So one of the things we teach you, right? We teach a lot.
Yeah, this is big stuff. I mean,
it's
here.
It's really big.
Once you get to this point, because you don't know that you need this until you get to this point, because it's not, you think that it's about learning how to eat different and, this and that. And you don't really understand that you need this part of this help until you get here. And then you're like, oh shit, now what? And that's where Empowered Weight Loss comes in and scoops you up and gives you a soft place to land and says, okay, now we'll take it from here.
Yeah.
So I promise you will get here. And when you get here, there's a place to go for help.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad you said that.
Weight loss. It's true.
I'm so glad you said that.
It's true. So
because it's true. You don't know you need it until you actually
don't know. Exactly.
Until you're like, why can't I just eat correctly?
Like, you don't know.
I know
until
what
you
to
get
do.
there.
I just can't make myself do it. That's what I hear all the time.
I see people in the clinic all the time get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they don't know until they get there. At first they come in and it's all about, the eating and the, the protein and this and that, and the medication and all that. But then you get to the point where the emotional shit comes in and then they're like, well, I've eliminated all the buffering. Oh no. Now what? And so, like I said, you'll get there and then there is help.
Yeah.
And then it's Empowered Weight Loss.
I was driving home from my last appointment with you, Dr. Angela, and I pulled off at the store and I just bought all this stuff and I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. So, I've done it. Yeah. Believe me, I've done it more than once.
Yep.
So.
Okay. So that was tip number 2. So that was a very powerful tip. Here is tip number 1. Are you ready? The most important thing. Make your nutrition plan 24 hours ahead of time every day for the rest of your life.
Okay, this is awesome.
Every day for the rest of your life. As long as you live in the modern world, anyway, the modern food environment, you cannot leave your nutrition to chance and survive. So we've talked about how we have these primitive brains that are really interested in finding things that are pleasurable, and over pleasure is better than pleasure, avoiding pain, including emotional pain, and conserving energy in case the saber-toothed tiger comes around and we need to fight. Right. We cannot be expending our energy on just, mundane tasks. So our primitive brains are focused on our immediate survival, and they're being constantly stimulated by the food industry. Constantly. So if we have not made our food decisions in advance, we leave ourselves vulnerable. And that's why taking the time to plan your nutrition in advance is so important. And it's not just for while you're in the weight loss phase. It's forever and ever and ever, every day for the rest of your life. You should have a plan 24 hours in advance for what you're going to be eating the next day. And further ahead in advance is even better, but I say at a bare minimum, 24 hours in advance. Okay? So make those plans ahead of time and give yourself a shot at success. Does that make sense?
Yes, and this is not impossible. It takes some work at first, and I'm not even I haven't perfected this, but I can't tell you the last time that I ate fast food. And I used to eat fast food almost every single night, or takeout of some sort. I mean, my husband and I, we just every night pretty much. And now I can't even and I'm not saying that we don't do takeout every once in a while, but we have planned on what we can that, falls in with our healthy eating and not healthy eating. We don't use those words. We're just, our eating, the acceptable eating, normal eating. Sorry. I couldn't find the word. Normal eating and
unprocessed.
Unprocessed. And so, we have a plan for that now because now it's become normal for us. Right.
Yay.
And and so it's possible, and it can seem overwhelming at first, but you just take it, just one step at a time, and then it just becomes part of who you are and part of the way that you you live now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right. I'm going to just review all of our top 10 tips really quickly, each one. Okay. So tip number 10: don't worry about what anyone else thinks about what you're eating or not eating. Give up managing other people's brains. Just focus on yourself. Tip number 9, don't use your bathroom scale to assess your progress. Tip number 8, keep your eyes on your own plate. Tip number 7, focus on nourishing your beautiful physical body. Tip number 6, a pen and a paper are your most important weight loss tools. Tip number 5, the journey is gonna be messy. Don't expect perfection. Tip number 4, remember that sugar and flour are powerful drugs that should be respected and never given to children, which is, I know that's controversial. I'm purposefully being controversial now that I know what's going on. Tip number 3, the weight loss journey done well is a journey of profound personal evolution. Please be willing to evolve. Tip number 2, accepting, feeling, and processing negative emotion is the key to preventing cross-addiction. And tip number 1, make your nutrition plan at least 24 hours in advance every day for the rest of your life. Okay, so that is our top 10 most important weight loss tips. Now, Marchelle, I have a question for you. Was there anything that I forgot?
No, I was just trying to think if there was anything that you ever told me that you just told. something that stands out for me is this: you told, whenever I get overwhelmed, you just say, Marchelle, you don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to do it decently. and that's just always, that's just always stuck out with me if I get overwhelmed. So it just, that's
nothing has to be perfect. Nothing. So
that's
all right. So I hope this helps all of our listeners. And again, please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes or Stitcher, whatever your podcast platform of choice is. And if you want help with any of this, I'd really invite you to join us in Empowered Weight Loss, where we go into depth into all of this and so much more. And we really give you the support that you need to be successful. That's what we want. So if you're interested, just go to journeyBeyondWeightLoss.com/yes, and you can sign up and join us in the membership, and we'll be able to help you in much more, what's the word I want? Much more detail. Yes. Much more specifically. We'll be able to help you out. So
help you manage those emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right. I think that's it. So happy 100th anniversary to us. Happy 100th podcast to us. Yay. All right. So that's it for this week. Have a great week, and we will see all of you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to JourneyBeyondWeightLoss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.